In 1866, the Solomon Wolfson Jewish School was founded in West London. In 1979, it was closed and left derelict for 7 years. Then the building came to life again. The old school building in Notting Hill has become Britain's first purpose-built AIDS hospice. London Lighthouse was developed in response to a crisis, but it has become a focus for a range of radical new ideas about nursing and healthcare.
Well, now we're walking into the big hall, which will be used for big meetings, conferences, entertainments, and, of course, for funerals. And we've just actually come in the door through which coffins will be carried out.
I don't know anyone who speaks about death. It's quite such, not delight, but as if it were a fact of life.
Well,
it is.
A very central fact of life. In the first year, we're planning that it will be 1/3 respite care. That's coming in maybe after a hospital stay or because people at home need a rest, and 2/3 terminal care.
Yeah.
Christopher Spence, director of London Lighthouse, has worked as a counsellor specialising in bereavement. Actor Ian McKellen is one of the patrons of the project. The proceeds from his one-man show raised nearly £500,000 towards the building costs.
Although the emphasis up here is going to be on it being very restful, this corridor here, the architects have got 16 colours, sort of shades of colour. Now, here we go across the bridge, and this is a light well, throwing light right down into the centre of the building. And this bridge will have absolutely glass walls.
So how many floors are one?
No, this is
Two,
the top floor.
3 or 4 floors?
Yeah, no, 3 floors.
Three
floors, yeah. And that brings us into the largest room of all, which is a 9-bed room.
Would it not be better to have everyone just in a single room?
Well, we talked to people a lot about what they want and found that people wanted very different things. And we've got single rooms and double rooms and a 3-bed and a 4-bed. But during any individual stay here, their needs will change. And in general, we find that once the environment's right, people don't want to be isolated or to isolate themselves. They want people around them. And it'll be quite a busy place, I think. Restful and busy.
By September 1988, the building was ready to open. From the start, the stylish design of the place challenged people's assumptions about what an institution like this should look like.
Reactions to the completed building have been very mixed. People are obviously very impressed. I think people also feel envious and critical of the fact that it is very comfortable. It's best illustrated, I think, by what happened at one of our open days, which was attended by a number of hospital consultants. And one consultant got up and said he was a consultant in genitourinary medicine from a hospital in the Midlands, and he was all for good patient care and he was all for people being able to die in dignity. But really, this was ridiculous. It was far too lavish and it was right over the top. And before I'd really had a chance to reassure him that actually the costs are here have been below the cost of developing an NHS facility, and our per bed costs are below NHS figures. Another consultant got up and said that if he were absolutely honest, what he would have to say about the experience of walking around and looking at this building was that he'd had to contend with a lot of feelings of envy, and what that was about was knowing that every single patient that he treated in the NHS deserved this quality of care, and he knew that they don't get it. And so I think, in a way, the Lighthouse is making a statement about the nature of care and may well start a debate about what are the conditions in which we should be caring for people in this society.
It's the combination of services that makes Lighthouse so unusual. From the moment someone's diagnosed, they can go there to get advice or counselling. People living at home with HIV or AIDS can get emotional or practical support from a group of volunteers based in their area but trained and organised from London Lighthouse. And on the top floor of the building is the centrepiece of the project, a 24-bed residential unit for short stays or for terminal care.
Right. Now, does Chris know that you're speaking to us at Lighthouse? He's okay about that? Right. Well, if you want to refer him to us, there's...
Hamish McGregor, manager of the residential unit, recruited 15 qualified nurses with a range of experience from psychiatry to intensive care and even midwifery.
As we could get some information on that.
Now, some of you have done a little bit of this the last couple of meetings. But can you...
Their induction encouraged them to challenge the conventional role of the nurse. They wouldn't wear uniform and they'd refer to those staying on the unit as residents rather than patients. But the overriding principle was that the nurses would let residents have as much say as possible in how they were cared for.
And in choosing nurses, we were really looking at people that wanted to give care in a very imaginative way and wanted to do things quite differently.
There's a kind of a joy that I get to in seeing people, as far as I'm able, to giving people a lot of control over their lives and allowing maybe the emotional or social or whatever term you'd like to put on hurts being healed, as well as caring for them physically.
When I came here for my interview, it was still in the process of being built, and as part of my tour around, I was taken to a partially built mortuary, and at the time I thought, oh my God, you know, it's just really strange, you know, being taken to a mortuary. But then when I thought about it, I thought, no, that's really good that, you know, they've taken me here, because it's all about what this place stands for, that death shouldn't be seen as the great taboo that it is, and that death is part of life.
Since nurses were to be encouraged to build close relationships with residents, the second key principle was that the nurses themselves would need good emotional support.
One of the fears that I had was like how I would cope watching a lot of young people dying of AIDS, and you know, will I emotionally be able to cope with it? Was I going to burn myself out?
The traditional way of, if someone dies, you go to the sluice and cry, but it's not seen. Or you certainly go home and maybe talk to somebody about how awful it was, or you go down the pub or something. And what we're wanting is that is contained here, and that's accepted, and that if you are looking after somebody for a number of weeks or even a number of days that you've got very attached to, that it's all right to take one of your colleagues and cry about it because you are genuinely sad.
I think the biggest thing that frightens me is that I will stop feeling. I mean, I tend to think that if it ever came to that I didn't care, that I didn't get upset and I didn't cry when people died, I would leave. That would be the day to leave.
As in the NHS, nobody pays to stay at London Lighthouse. People can be referred by their doctor, their hospital, or by themselves.
It's the Griffith, do you want the Griffith?
No.
One nurse coordinates the care of each resident. Lawrence is primary nurse for Pat Barrett. They're both 28 and both from Ireland.
How was last night? Did you sleep all right?
Woke up a few times.
The headaches?
No.
Basically, Pat has lost the feeling in his lower limbs from his feet basically to the upper part of his trunk. He has some use of his hands, but very limited use of his hands. He can hold the remote control of the TV and flick the TV over. He can also pull the cord and little things like that. I've noticed sometimes he can open a sweet, or take the paper off a sweet.
Now what you can do is put the foot on the bed. No, up, knee up, higher.
Yeah, you're resisting me, hold on.
Because of his paralysis, Pat is on a special bed. It's like a bath full of silicon sand with air pumped through it, so that he's effectively floating. It helps prevent pressure sores. Like many people with AIDS, Pat knows a lot about his illness. He has asked Lawrence, who has experience in orthopaedic nursing, to exercise his legs 2 or 3 times a day.
Yeah, it rotates the hip.
Yeah. This one's going, the whole body's going.
Yeah, I know. You can stop that a little bit by switching the bed off. Here and in St Mary's, people are prepared to do things the way you're happiest with them, and not the way they're happiest with them. They're prepared to make concessions in a number of areas. and are willing to take your instructions, like the exercises I have to have done with my legs and the like. My physiotherapist in St Mary's worked out a very good set of exercises which exercise the legs in as many directions and flex as many of the joints and muscles and tendons as possible. And having observed them being done day in, day out for 3 months, I was then able to pass on that information to Lawrence and anybody else who plays with my legs. I'm going to have to wear a foot brace for a while, I'm sure, on each of them to flatten them out. It gives me the feeling of I'm still in command. I still have a certain amount of control over my life. Even if I don't have much control over the rest of my body, I do have a certain amount of control over what happens to it. And therefore I feel safe.
One day he kind of blew his top almost and sort of said to me, you know, when I want something, I'll ask for it. And it made me begin to think, you know, why. So I asked him, what, you know, why he sort of got very adamant when we were asking him, you know, what he needed. And he said that when we asked him, it emphasized the fact that he was dependent on us for a lot of things, and a lot of things that people do normally in their everyday life. And he felt that he was quite aware enough about his dependency without being reminded. And he just asked, and it demanded a sensitivity on our behalf to realise that Pat knew his own needs.
Well, I know you. Of course you do. I'm Jimmy Kildare's mother.
Beattie King was newly qualified when she got the job at London Lighthouse. She's married and her son Max is 18 months old. She trained at St George's Hospital, Tooting, where she first looked after people with AIDS. The round trip from her home in Peckham to Lighthouse in Notting Hill and Max's nursery in Wapping adds 2 hours to her day.
I'm very lucky. I mean, I don't think I would be able to do my job if it wasn't for the fact that David, my husband, does so much with Max. I mean, he looks after him when I am working at weekends or nights or late. I don't think you've eaten them all. There isn't any more water. Sometimes if things are really awful at work, just all death, and it's very depressing, and then I look at Max and I'm so lucky because I can see him and he's starting his life, and I can do really sort of childish things with him and read to him. I want the caterpillar one. Ooh! Ooh! Ooh, that's pretty, isn't it?
In November, Beattie was on night shift for the first time. By then, there were 7 men and 1 woman in the residential unit.
Christopher is really, really poorly. Very, very poorly indeed, but is stable with it. His diamorphine's running at 200 milligrams. He's also showing sort of like positive signs when you sort of like just rub his feet. Sounds actually ridiculous.
He likes it.
Yeah.
Likes it. So if you rub
And his breathing normally is sort of like quite heavy and sort of like noisy. As soon as you do that, it tends to calm down.
Just hold them.
Just hold them.
Making him quite comfortable. Just the fact that
Somebody's,
his toes are cold, so you
yeah.
just,
They're supposed
you
to be
know,
so sensitive.
warm them with your hands. It's okay.
Like, he had the reflexology did things like that. Simon's been here all day, and he's wandering around the place like a little lost sheep. He really is.
I'll give him a big cuddle.
But he's coming out regularly. He's been sensible. He's sort of like staying maybe half an hour, coming out just for a cigarette. And I've been going in. So that's my chaps.
Who's that leave?
As well as sitting with Christopher, who is very close to death, Beattie and Robin will spend time during the night with Colin Mapp, who Beattie already knows well.
Colin this morning took to his bed, but he didn't really want to know me today, so I've just left him to it, I'm afraid. He did ask me to get some cigarettes and I refused. I said if he wanted cigarettes he could come out to the day room, and he didn't come out, so...
Yeah, so what, if he asks us, should we just say you've agreed?
Yeah, that he can get up. I think if he wants to smoke he can get up
Has
to
he got
smoke,
any
I'm sure.
cigarettes?
No, he's got nothing in there. He's got a drop of wine in there.
So he'd have to get
I'll
some
leave
for
some.
you.
He'd have to get
This is-
cigarettes from other people anyway.
Has he got very much wine left?
He's got about that much in a bottle.
I can't do it.
Colin really came here for convalescence, you know, to make sure that he eats properly and that he's rehabilitated, really, so that eventually he'll be able to go home.
So my mum, I felt sorry for her because she came all the way up and I just couldn't talk to her. And I started shouting at her, which wasn't very nice.
I'm sure she understands, I mean, if you're not well.
And I kept saying to her, Mum, just leave me alone. Just let me sleep. And just let me do what I want to do.
Lighthouse is not equipped for surgery or complex medical procedures. Here, the nurses combine their technical skills with a particular concern for residents' social and emotional welfare. The nurses argue that simply talking to someone is a central part of the job.
I'm sure she understands. You didn't have a very good day. Do you feel tired now?
I do and I don't. It's one of them nights where I'm going to sort of probably sit up all night.
Don't you think it would help, like, you know, if you went to bed and like somebody sat with you in your room and started talking to you?
No, because I don't know if... I mean, I've read that before.
Yeah, don't they bore you to sleep?
No, I just sort of sit there and think to myself, God, I wish these people had gone. Just let me go to sleep. If I can have a packet of fags, it's only for the morning. So I can wake up to a fag. I must have a fag in the morning.
Well, yeah, in the morning, yeah, somebody can go out and get them, but I just think, you know, what time is it?
The theory of giving residents control over their lives is tricky to put into practice if you're faced with an age-old nursing problem, a patient who wants to smoke.
Somebody will go out. I don't even know whether there is anywhere around here where you can get them. And I mean, you did say yourself that you got a flu or something. So, you know.
I was going to say no.
If you can wait till 7 o'clock.
Yeah, but it's actually getting to sleep.
The cigarettes aren't going to send you to sleep, Colin.
They do.
So if what's in them?
So if I go out and get you a packet of 20, then you're going to promise that you're going to go to sleep?
I will do.
Oh.
I will do, darling. You know me, baby.
Yeah, I know, but you're not going to get to sleep on cigarettes, are you?
No, but I can, because I'm going to... I probably won't go to sleep till about 5, 6.
Yeah, I know that.
And I like to have a fag.
Well, at 6 o'clock I'll go out and get you some.
Bitch.
That's my final offer. Take it or leave it. Really, what I was trying to do with Colin is negotiation. But a lot of the time, I mean, half of him really wants cigarettes, but the other half almost is like wants somebody to say no to him, because he does know that if he has cigarettes, it's going to upset Jan. And also, I mean, he has got flus. He's got flus, not well, so it's not going to do him any good. See what I mean? I think if you know, like you've agreed something, and I don't want to
get in between it.
Yeah, get in between.
When you're talking about giving people control, that doesn't mean, oh, you can do what you like and whatever you want, we'll just go along with, because we see our role as being that we can give people information, and we can say, this is what we think would be the best course of action for you. This, treatment-wise, would be the best thing for you. And that's where the nurse's professional skills come in. We're not going to impose that on someone, but we're going to say, this is what we think is best. And if the resident says, absolutely no way I'm going to have that, well, that's fair enough. And you may have to think again. And there's constant negotiation in delivering care.
Intramuscular injection. That'd be 75. Yeah. The work during the night is very different. It's really quite boring and tedious because you're almost just sitting around waiting for something to happen. And then there's the insomniacs who just sit up till 5 in the morning And that can be really quite wearing when people are very manic, and they don't necessarily, I mean, they're not sort of wanting counselling or whatever, they just quite often it's like sort of manic ramblings at 5 a.m. You're just thinking, you know, please go to bed. But the contrast to that would be if there is somebody who is quite likely to die, we would take turns to sit with them through the night. And I actually quite enjoy that. It's just so peaceful.
Beattie and Robin sat with Christopher all that night. In the first 3 months, 5 people died at Lighthouse. The nurses were finding both the fact and the manner of these deaths distressing, and as expected, they were having to give each other a lot of emotional support.
Christopher died at 3:15 this afternoon. He had a grand mal attack about 2 o'clock, really, really bad one, and it took about half an hour, I think, to get him settled after that.
We thought he was fitting, didn't we? We didn't know whether he was or not.
So once that was over and that settled, from about 2:30 to 3:15, he was really very content.
Was Simon with him?
Yeah, well, he was gone home at the time he had the attack, but we rang him. And
oh no, was he here?
He was here. He was here a good half hour. So it was fine. It was fine. Simon was quite content. So he's downstairs. You want to go down?
Oh, I'm glad.
Oh yeah,
I think we all are. I really was.
It's just awful last night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really, really was.
I think it's just like the worst thing. No.
Really?
It was just like nothing that we could do, was there? I mean, like seeing his fingers like that. Just like everything.
Okay now.
Yeah, I think I'll just have a glass of water.
Okay.
Do you know what I did? I thought I just can't bear to be late again, and that, you know, Metropolitan line. So I got a cab, didn't I? And of course the traffic, it's just unreal. I just feel like at the moment like my life is jinxed. You know, the new car's broken, it's in the garage. You know, I've got no car. So I got a cab, and the traffic was horrendous. It was just awful. And because, you know, I get car sick, and I was just like feeling really awful in the car.
Sure, come get a drink.
Yeah, I think I'll just have a drink of water and a puzzle from David, and then I'll sure I'll be 100%.
That's great.
Me and Beattie were looking after Christopher last night. We were taking it in turns, really sort of changing over about every half an hour to an hour. Because that was really about as much as we could take, really. It was quite distressing, both for Christopher and for us as well, sitting there. We felt quite helpless sometimes, that we couldn't quite make him as comfortable as we wanted to. We were turning him every sort of couple of hours, but he was still breaking down. His skin was breaking down quite quickly. And we continued to increase the pain control as time went on. But it was quite distressing. Beattie got upset quite a few times. I think it's just the fact that you feel so helpless and you're limited in what you can really do. I think one of the problems that I feel, and I didn't really give it too much thought before really, was the fact that it's so many, the people here who are dying are basically young men, well, mostly young men. And even though their bodies are dying, usually their hearts are quite strong and they just keep on going. So that's something which I think we all are noticing, the fact that they take so long to die, and it is quite distressing.
They're getting more jaundice.
Oh, God. The way he was groaning as well.
Yeah. But there were groans responding to some, you know, there weren't just pain.
What do you think he knew? What
he knew exactly what was happening quite convinced, because you know how he used to like his feet massage?
Yeah, we did that.
I did that to him.
His feet.
And I said, is it all right? And he was going, you know, sort of like this constant bevel. And he went,
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Right. And then I put some music on.
Yeah.
And I said to him, is it too loud? He just went, you know, so
So he turned
really,
it down.
you know,
God.
No, nothing else, but just these little moans and everything.
God knows having so much time morphine.
People could become too emotionally burned out, but I really do hope and believe that we're less likely to get burnout because people are actually expressing how they feel at the time and that it's not pushed down. And I feel that that's how people burn out. It's because they're not allowed to express how they feel and they become burnt out because they think, I can't take any more, and they just freeze out.
I want night flow.
Really?
No, I didn't.
Nice, isn't it?
No.
Colin has fallen out with his partner over his smoking. Inevitably, nurses get closely involved in all aspects of a resident's life.
It's a big sort of disagreement between you both, isn't it, at the moment? There's other things as well. Yeah. What do you think about things at the moment then? Okay. Yep, take care now, bye. Jan said about this chat with Sue tomorrow. I didn't realise that was going to take place. Yeah, I asked if he wanted to come in and sort of take part in it, but he said it wouldn't really help matters. How do you think it's going to go? Do you think it's going to get sorted out with Sue?
I don't know if I can talk to Sue, then it'd be really good.
Because she knows you quite well, doesn't she? I said to Jan that we all can sense that things are wrong and things need to be sorted out, and he agreed. He knows that's the case. We're going to have to come to some conclusions or make some decisions, aren't we, with like, the future and things. So we'll see how things go tomorrow then, eh?
Yeah.
What do you want to do now?
I'm gonna go and drink.
You want to go to bed?
I'm gonna go and drink.
Are you sure you want to go to bed?
No, I don't want to go to bed. It's too early. Oh.
Should I give you a hand?
I'm gonna go to bed.
You want to go?
Yeah.
All right. Shall we give you your painkiller in bed? Yeah?
No.
No? All right.
Oh, you think you'll sleep without it?
Yeah. If you don't, we can come in. I'll give it to you. Come in.
No, my bed's...
Your bed's up this way, Colin.
No.
It is. It's just one here.
You sat at our desk then with the phone.
You got a bit confused because you're not used to sitting there, are you?
Really? That's it. Yeah. I can't bring milk.
Yeah, I'll bring it in for you, don't worry. It's your milk and your wine, okay?
She's been fixing.
Colin, I really wouldn't be that happy about you smoking in bed because you're ever so tired and you're going to set fire to that bed. If you want a cigarette, just pull the cord and I'll come in and sit with you while you have it, okay? That's fair enough, yeah? Right. Okay, good night then. If you want anything, just pull the cord.
Beattie's husband, David, knows she's finding the night shift tough, and he calls her to see how it's going.
I know. I just came upstairs and, like everyone could see that I was really upset and I was just like sort of crying and everything. But they were just so nice. And however good the support systems are here, at the end of the day, I just think it's inevitable that one will go home at certain times and we'll cry and we'll be very upset. And he said, you know what you were saying, you've just got to talk to Hamish about it and get something sorted out. I better go because I've got to give Colin a cigarette with him. Alright. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for calling. Alright, so I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, bye.
Lighthouse cost £5 million to convert and equip. The annual running costs are over £2 million.
I suppose you're bidding on all the major artworks.
Probably, yeah.
Much of the cash was raised by high-profile charity events.
Should we go round here? 'Cause you haven't seen the paintings.
On this occasion, the London Art World is bidding for works donated by 69 top artists.
I'm Christopher Spence, and it's my very pleasant task to welcome everybody. Can you hear me all right? First of all, to London Lighthouse itself, and secondly, to artworks for London Lighthouse 2. The services being provided here are essential services. This project has been the result of a planning crisis as far as the needs of people with this disease are concerned. In that sense, it's the job of the statutory funding sources to fund it, rather than it to be seen long-term as a charitable venture. This event is in celebration of the completion within 2 years of this £5 million very elegant and beautiful purpose-built building.
Because it's a nervous condition which the nerves in the spine have been damaged, the nerves in the legs have been damaged, the nerves in the arms have been damaged, so they don't know how far it could go or how far it'll recover when it's finished. Oh, I've contracted retinitis in the meantime as well. I keep forgetting about retinitis. So, how have you been anyway?
Lot 11, the Hockney. This is the first example. We have two. It's the first one. 100 for it.
The budget in the next financial year is £2.3 million, which is quite a lot of money. And I think that the challenge is to secure and extend the funding from statutory sources for this project. Currently, we're running at 85%. That's 85 pence in every pound coming from government, the health service, or local government, meaning that we have to find 15 pence from other sources. I think that's a pretty good figure compared, for instance, to the hospice movement. That's very, very high. The challenge is to keep it that high or even improve on it. And I think the replicability of the project elsewhere will depend on our success in getting statutory funding to pay for the running costs.
480.
Two sales like this raised nearly £500,000 for Lighthouse. But if AIDS loses its status as the fashionable fundraising issue, the government's contribution will become all the more important.
520. For you.
Right. From the tour round, was there any questions that you wanted to ask before I went on to the things that we're planning for the afternoon? Well, today we've got 9 new nurses started. This means that we can open the remaining beds, and that's very exciting to have new people arrive. The model of care that we develop here will be one that is flexible and that can be used not only in dealing with people with AIDS, but in healthcare generally, and that it's not restricted and it should be very flexible. And I think it would be a great pity and a great failure if we did manage to develop something that was very good just for people with AIDS.
There are many other groups in the population for whom this model of care is relevant. If you think, for example, about the needs of the elderly, that's a very obvious group. That if there were a combination of residential and home support and drop-in facilities for older people, many of them might be able to remain at home for much longer than they can.
For Colin, living in a residential unit is second best to being at home. But Lighthouse often has to fight for better community services to make it possible to stay at home.
I go home for weekends, just for a break, because you can't be stuck in a place all the time, because, I mean, although it's nice here, you can't be stuck here all the time, because it would literally drive you out the wall. I mean, because since I've been here, I've seen 4 deaths, which is not very nice. I do really want to get home. So, if anything does happen, I want to die indoors. I want to die in my own flat, in my own bed, not in some sort of strange place.
Colin finally got home in February, but after a brief illness he was admitted to his local hospital. He died there on the 12th of March.
It's difficult to say where you go from here because there are so many possibilities. The possibility is that things won't improve, in which case I'm going to have to be looked after for the rest of my life. Then things might improve, and then it becomes totally impossible to tell where we are, because to what extent and how much mobility do I have? How much will I be able to do? But my greatest hopes are that I get back a level of sensitivity in my hands and capable of looking after myself to a certain degree, and hopefully a certain amount of mobility back into my legs so that I can get out and about again.
In March, Pat was transferred to St Mary's Hospital in Paddington to be treated for pneumonia. He died there last week.
Looking back on it, I don't think I realised fully what exactly I was going to be letting myself in for and how hard it would be. I think I was sort of very naive about it all, and I think it has been a lot harder than I thought it would be. And
sometimes the grief doesn't actually come out when, just an example, someone who died, who I had nursed for quite a while, and I had got very, very close to, and when they died, I quite surprised myself that I wasn't upset. I didn't cry at the time, and it was about a month later. There was a lady here who died, and who I hadn't been nursing quite a lot, but I got quite upset then, and I realised, looking back on it, that the grief that I had expressed there was both for her and for the person who had nursed before.
I just felt on Monday, I mean, how many funerals am I going to have to go to this year? You know, it's just so many things. That's why I just couldn't stop crying.
How many has it been in the first 3 or 4 months?
How many?
12,
How many? There must.
12.
There's been 12 funerals already since. I mean, that's what, in 4 months. I mean, that's the first one that I've actually been to, so that's probably what hit me a lot.
Just what is your connection with the case, Mr. Kildare? Isn't it enough that I induced you to come and see you? Obviously, I'm in your...
I think a lot of people are quite sort of suspicious of us and hostile sometimes. And I don't know, maybe it's just my sort of paranoia, but sometimes I kind of feel that maybe a lot of other sort of medical people, they kind of think that we're not even proper nurses, you know, they don't wear uniforms, so therefore they can't be proper nurses. Oh, I'll never forget ever when you, pulled the buzzer and asked for poached eggs at sort of 4 in the morning. I was just like...
How can anybody at that time
I
in the
really
morning?
thought you'd be sick. How you weren't sick, I do not know. Especially on top of all that peach wine.
I personally have learned things from nursing here that if I was to go back to the National Health or anywhere, I think would add to the type of nursing care I would give, and that's been an enriching thing.
I'm a River Shannon man myself. Been up and down the length of that several times.
Was it?
Yeah.
I haven't really done the Shannon. Crossed it once. That's